and welcome back to this week's video. If you've not been here before, you've not seen one of my videos before, my name is Tracy Mayhew and I write contemporary romance set in the UK and YA fantasy fiction based on myths and legends. So happy December! Yay, it's Christmas is around the corner. And I must admit I've been getting all festive. We've been going to some festive Christmas markets. And we've been going Christmas tree decoration shopping, and on Saturday we put up our Christmas tree, which I will put a little post in the community tab on this channel so you can have a look at it and see. And there may be some Christmas inspired shorts going up as well. Also last night I did something very different. I roasted chestnuts in the air fryer, which was quite cool. I love chestnuts and so does my mum. So we've always been meaning to roast our own chestnuts, but we never got round to it. And last night we had some, and I thought, well, do you know what? I'll give it a go. And I looked up a recipe online for the air fryer, and it was delicious. And I will be doing them again and again. So yeah, I highly recommend it if you like roasted chestnuts. Give them a go in the air fryer. Anyway, so let's get into this week's video. And this week's video is going to be all about how I wrote 50,000 words in 22 days. So yes, I did win NaNo, and to prove it, I have the certificate. So there you go, I printed that out for me. Still no title, because obviously the title is remaining top secret. I'm not ready to release that until early next year. So watch out for that title release. So before I get into how I won NaNo, let's talk about my history with NaNo. I started doing NaNo about 5 years ago, I think 4 or 5 years ago, and never won it. I tried, but I'd always fall at about mid-November. Something would always crop up and I'd give up. I don't think I ever got past the mid-November mark before I thought, do you know what, it's just not worth it. But this year I did things slightly differently going into November, and I want to share those things with you. But I also want to make it clear that this isn't just about a NaNo video. You don't just need these tips for NaNo. You can use this for any time you're starting a new project, because let's face it, we all need the tips going into a new project, because it's not always easy to start something new. So I'm hoping that these tips will help. There's 4 tips that I'm going to talk about, so hopefully they'll be concise and to the point, and it won't be a massively long video. So my first tip would be to pick a project that you are excited about. When I first started thinking about NaNo back in July, August time, I thought to myself, I was initially going to go in with a completely different project to the one I went with in the end. I was going to write the final instalment of the Viking Saga trilogy. But before NaNo, I was writing the Christmas book, Not Just for Christmas, and I was setting up a whole new series set in a Cotswolds village called Appleford. And by the time I ended up finishing Not Just for Christmas, round about the beginning of October, I was really doubting whether I could leave that village and go into Viking fantasy worlds. And so I tried, initially in October, I tried to plan my story for the 3rd instalment of the Viking Saga, but things just weren't coming together for that story. So in the end, I sort of thought, I took some time away from the planning, and I thought to myself, you know what, I'm really excited to continue to stay in Appleford. And I know that Appleford's going to be a 4-book series, so I thought, do you know what, I'm going to stick with this series till it's complete, and then I will go on to the Viking story, because it's no good going in. For me, I used to be able to chop and change between fantasy and romance, but I'm finding that more and more difficult at the moment. I don't know if it's just because of where I am, other things going on in my life and things like that, but I just thought I'm going to stick with Appleford and I'm going to see how that goes. And so I'm going to plan book 2 for the Appleford series, and I really got into that. I started filling out the character sheets for Elliot and Carrie, and I was just like, the ideas just kept flowing, and I knew I'd made the right decision. So my excitement just kept growing and growing, which I was so pleased about, and that made it really easy to start November on a high, I think. So yeah, my first tip would be to definitely pick something that you're excited about, because then the words will flow easier and the ideas will come quicker. My second tip would be to prepare. I cannot say this enough. As a teacher, when I'm teaching writing, I always say to my children, to the kids that I teach, you've got to plan your story. You've got to know where you're going. And that is so true. I use that. That's my philosophy whenever I start. I always do a zero draft, a complete zero draft that may change. It's not set in stone, but at least I know generally how I'm getting from the beginning to the end and kind of what happens in the middle. There may be parts where there's little bits that I might need to fill in later, but for the most part, I know where the story's going. And I would definitely recommend that. You've seen this before because I've shown this loads and loads of times, but I had a whole folder dedicated to my project, and I found this invaluable because I was writing at work. So I was writing at work and at home, and sometimes I'd go to the library. So this, I knew I had everything in it. I didn't need to worry about notebooks. I didn't need to worry about bits of paper that I needed to gather up and make sure I had at any time. This was all I needed, and so this has got village maps in it, character profile sheets in it. It's got a word count tracker in it, all kinds of stuff. And I think going forward, I'm going to be using this folder a lot more than I have done in the past, because I found that so invaluable. And as I say, it was very portable. So if you are working a job as well as doing the writing, and you need to be other places for whatever reason, I would definitely recommend finding something like that. And what I'll do is I'll leave a link to that folder down below. So if you do want to pick it up, it was very inexpensive. I think it was definitely less than £5. And you can get them in all different colours. But I went with blue because it was easy to see in my bag and not as bright as red. Okay, so planning, preparing, getting everything done, but also being a little bit flexible with that plan. So like in my case, I had the zero draft, but I've had things change, and like even I've left one chapter from Carrie's point of view that I'm going to need to go back to and change to Elliot's point of view, because I felt like in the end that chapter would work better from Elliot's point of view. But so don't be afraid to change things around if you need to. That would be part of the advice for preparing, not just sticking rigidly to one plan that you've come up with. And then the third tip that I want to give you is to find a balance between, for my case, a full-time job and writing. Teaching is quite a stressful, time-consuming occupation, and I'm sure there are other jobs out there that are just like that and just as stressful. So it's not always easy to go to work and write in your lunchtime, because where I'm concerned, I have marking to do, or I have to prepare for the afternoon's lessons. So writing at lunchtime isn't always possible. It's not like I can get to 12 o'clock and switch off. So I did always take my notebook, my planning folder and my iPad to work with me, and sometimes I was able to. I think one day I knocked out 167 words at lunch. It was just like a quick 10-minute session where I was just able to sit down before the children came in, but that wasn't always possible. But what I did when I looked back over this year's NaNo, I realised that what I wasn't doing in previous years was, when I came home in previous years, I would sit down at my computer straight away without giving myself a break. Unless, get a drink maybe, or, go to the loo or something. But I would come home, sit in front of my laptop and think, right, I'll knock out 1,000 words and that will be okay. But I really struggled with that. And this year I did things slightly different, because I came home, I rested, I even sometimes laid on the bed, sometimes I fell asleep. But then after my rest I had dinner. And then after dinner, about 7 o'clock, so I'd give myself about 2 hours break between coming home and actually sitting down to do any writing this year. And I can't stress how much easier it was to sit down at 7 o'clock of an evening for maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, depending on how energized I was. And just the writing came so much easier. So I think going forward past NaNo into next year, I will definitely be doing that more. So making more use of my time in the evenings, because in previous years, when I tried to force myself to write 1,000 words, I would get the 1,000 words, or just over 1,000 words, or just under, but they wouldn't be the best quality, and then I would be totally wiped out for the rest of the evening. And I was just, in the end, I kind of then fell into a pattern of thinking, well, I won't do it. I'm too tired in the evening to think about writing. I'm just not going to bother. And then, so that way I'd have to save all my writing to the weekend, which was an awful lot to try and cram into 2 or 3 days. So yeah, I would definitely try and utilise my evenings much more now that I've found a balance and a way of doing it, and I know that that's an effective way. So I would highly recommend, if you have a job or if you have other commitments, that you try finding a way to make that balance. It might be that if you work evenings or nights, you have to do that in the late morning, early afternoon kind of time. I don't know. You have to think about it in relation to your own schedules. So, but I would definitely recommend trying to find a way of finding that balance. And the last tip that I've got, number 4, would be to be restful when you need to. I can't stress that enough, because in past years I would always try and push myself to the limit, and that would just not benefit me in any way at all. And I'm sure you feel the same. I mean, I know there's times when you might have to push yourself a little harder than others, but for the most part, I think when you're tired, you rest. And in relation to NaNo, I didn't write every day. I didn't write for 22 days straight or anything. I had a couple of 0 days and a couple of really low days as well, where I didn't even hit the word count that I was aiming for every day. So, but what I didn't do was let it bother me. It is what it is. If you need to rest, if you're not feeling particularly well, or in my case, if you have a migraine, you can't force yourself to write under those circumstances. So don't. And then don't beat yourself up about it, because what's the point of making yourself feel bad when you already feel pretty terrible anyway? So I would just say, go easy on yourself. Give yourself the rest when you need to. Because I also found that when I rested, I came back stronger for it. So the days that I took off, yeah, I may have been disappointed at first, but then I was like, okay, so my body's telling me this is what I need, and I'd accept it. But the next day I'd be able to, or not necessarily the next day, but the day after that, I'd be able to come back and just surprise myself with the amount of words that I write, or with the enthusiasm that I came back with. So I would say definitely incorporate rest days into your timetable as well. I think you'd feel the benefit of that as well. So yeah, there you are, my 4 tips for winning NaNo, writing 50,000 words in 22 days, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to say now that there will be one more video. Next week's video will be my last video for this year, just because I have an awful lot of planning to do over the Christmas period. I also have a lot of family things going on here and there. My mum's birthday falls just before Christmas, so there's a lot of stuff going on. So next week will be my final video this year, but I will be back in January, and I cannot wait to come back. I can't believe I'm sitting here when I've just started this channel, at the end of July, saying that I will be back on YouTube in January, sorry. It still feels so surreal to think that I actually have a channel on YouTube. But anyway, that is the plan so far. So when I come back, I will hopefully be able to give you an insight into some of the plans I've come up with, some of the ways I'm changing certain things and doing certain things differently. I'll be very happy to share that with you. Next week's video will be all about my December into January reads, which I'm very excited to share with you, because I'm rereading an old favourite of mine. So yeah, I'll be very happy to share that and maybe spread the word about this series that I've loved for years. But until then, hit the like and subscribe button, and I will see you next week for my December reads video. So see you later. Bye.